So it's the weekend, and no weekend's complete without some unwanted problem to deal with. And today's problem is drain related, unfortunately. I've got a sink it's been a bit crap for the water draining away for a while, and I've just put a bit of hot water down every now and again. That seems to clear it. But it's still going down, the water does, but it's slow. But what I'm finding now is this horrible stink after the water's gone down. So if you put like half a bowl of water down there, it stinks the kitchen out straight afterwards. So obviously it's got to a point where something's really got to be done. Should have been dealt with before, really, but you know. And the smell's not actually coming from the sink, it's coming from under the sink. It's just a little bit concerning, and I'll sort of explain why. So this is under the sink, and you can see we've got like the usual U-bend, and then we've got some pipes for the water to come in. And then the waste pipe comes out here and goes off out this side here, and basically there's a wall there, and that's actually that goes to what would be the outside of the house. I say would be, it's not, but it would originally have been. And you've just got your normal water pipes. Then under here there's nothing really, but this is suspended wooden floor, so there's some gaps at the back there, so obviously any smell is coming up through there. There's a little bit of a draft, so I've taken the kickboard away. And if we go back here, that grey pipe you saw to the right is coming out here. Now this wall is actually the outside wall of the house at the back. The kitchen's obviously on the inside of the house. And I'm in like a, well, it was classed as a sunroom. Yeah, sunroom. It's like a conservatory type thing without a glass roof, basically. And this was probably built in the 60s or 70s. You can tell by the horrible wood effect plywood cladding. So yeah, so I'm not sure if water's actually getting through under there and that's smelling, or if it might just be that there's air being drawn through over the horrible stinky water in the drain, perhaps through a breeze block or something, and that's getting the smell through into the kitchen. Hopefully it's that. Obviously I'm concerned if it's not that and the actual water's getting under there, because it means the water's coming from this outside drain, because I say this is an outside wall. Originally there's be a drain here, and this has been covered up with this crap cupboard thing, this cupboard effort. And yeah, so there should be a drain under it. I've never actually pulled all of this up. What I did originally do, I was getting mice in the house, not just the odd one or two it was. And I figured it was here because there was all these gaps. This was open like this. There was doors on this thing, but obviously mice can get through very small gaps. So I just bodged some bits of wood and screwed them down. And as you can see, I would have, but I've never pulled this up because this is one piece of wood and it was fixed down. But I'm going to have a look, because I think under here is a block drain. There's another downpipe here as well, and this goes off. Well, I assume this went off to the bathroom, and I've not had any issues with the bathroom. That's draining fine. The sink in the bathroom's fine. The toilet's fine, and I've got it's actually a wet room, so the drain on the floor and that well, it's never been the best, but it's certainly not got any worse. I think this pipe may actually just be an old pipe that's no longer used, and they've just not bothered to take out, because as I say, the sink doesn't come through this wall by the looks of it, and you don't hear any water running through this, so I think this is just old. So it probably runs into the same drain, which is why obviously this is running into a drain that's probably blocked and the bathroom isn't. So I've took up some of my bits of wood here and that I've glued on and screwed on. I've cut this here with a saw so I can get this up, because I don't really want to have to pull all of this up if I can avoid it. It all seems to be pretty well stuck down. I'm assuming it's glued or pinned. I can't see any screws or nail marks. I thought they might be nails, but they're not. When was the last time anyone saw a carpet with that pattern then? That's what's under there, but it looks like there is some kind of wooden board under here as well, maybe, so hopefully that's separate to the rest of the floor, or there'll be some way I can access that. Interesting thing is, it doesn't smell here. Even if I've ran some water, it doesn't smell. Okay, I think basically this whole shit show of a cupboard thing here is all just going to have to get pulled away, it looks like there's some kind of access panel boards under here. The problem is, in order to get at them properly, I'm going to need to roll the carpet back, which is going to be a bit of a problem with all the stuff that's in here. I've also noticed this looks wet here as well. It looks damp, so that's probably not a good sign. It may just be because the drain's under there, but then I don't see, I don't know. It's damp, it needs looking at. Okay, so the frame's gone. I'm just going to try and get the rest of these bits of board up off the floor. Obviously there's some gaps and holes now which I'm going to have to be careful of. I was actually considering putting like a worktop across here anyway, because I've got some spare like kitchen worktops. That sounds a bit weird, having spare kitchen worktops, but there you go. So I could perhaps do that and box this in a bit better and make better use of the space than this cupboard. I can see why they've done it, but yeah, not ideal for accessibility to the drain though, if you have to rip the whole damn cupboard out. Interestingly, now I've pulled all that up, but now I've started to pull all these bits up here, I can get a bit more of a whiff of that horrible smell. So yeah, all this carpet's deteriorating. There's a right great big hole down here, and I don't know what this pipe's all about. A bit of a strange one, that, whether that's anything to do with the wet room pipe maybe. Looks like there might be some kind of manhole or something there even. So they've really done a good job of screwing up accessibility, that's for sure. There's a lot of things unfortunately in this house that have been, well, anything that's not original is a bodge basically. That's the conclusion I've come to. So yeah, not ideal. So I'm hoping that this wood here, and maybe that, it's loose and removable in some way. Okay, so I've managed to kind of peel back this here, and there is actually, looks like some degree of an access panel attempt that's been made here. I'm not quite sure why they've left that like that, probably just for access to do that pipe up or whatever. So there's three holes on this wood here, and so this is definitely damp, and I don't think there's wet come down here. It's not obvious if there is, so I don't know why that's damp like that. It'll be interesting to find out, so I'll perhaps find out in a minute. I'm just going to try and get some sort of light. The light's not very good down, it's actually getting darker outside as well, but the light's not the best here. The torch just seems to, so it's not quite what I was expecting to find. I was sort of more expecting an open drain under here, I suppose, but I guess it makes sense that it's not. But it looks like what they've done here, I think there's like I know the drains I've seen at the back of a lot of older houses before have got like usually a square bit and then a rounded bit, and I think the rounded bit's probably still here, or I'm not 100% sure. And it looks like they've just then cemented all of these pipes into this central place. It probably doesn't show up here, but there's a lot of wet down here. It's damp, so almost as if the water's wicking up, which is probably why there's damp down here. You can see maybe it's there as well. So I assume there's obviously some wet here that's then wicking up, and it's probably wicked up into this wood here. Yeah, that feels a little damp, so that's probably wicked up into that, and then that's why this board, you can see the difference in colour there. So that's why that's wet there. So at least we sort of know why. I can't really see any further up there. Actually, might use the camera as a way to see if there's anything else crazy going on up there. I assume it's just going to go under the floor. Yeah, so that probably just goes to the there's a door up that way, so yeah. If there's anything under here, I really want to knock this camera around too much under here. I might find a family of mice, say hello or something crazy. So it's just, it looks like there's like a little access thing here, which is probably my only way in. Whether that was an original part of the drain or whether that's been added because of this, I don't know. I have a feeling that removing that's going to be rather unpleasant, but let's just out of interest try and... I have no idea what the audio is going to be like on this. It's probably going to be pretty crap, but yeah, so that pipe there, can't really see on here where that goes. It seems a little high for it to be going to the wet room, the drain in the wet room on the floor. But I think the floor level would it'd be too high for that. So I don't know what that's from. It could be maybe some old drain from before. It could be something else that was in the bathroom, and the bathroom has since been altered, which is why this isn't in use, and this may have been related. So maybe this is just another old, now disused pipe that goes somewhere dead-ended. I'm not quite sure what kind of pipe that is. It feels a bit... I think that's lead. I don't know what it is. I say that because it's the way it's sort of bent, and it could be an old lead pipe. Probably just another one of the many bodges. There doesn't appear to be any holes here, so I don't really know how the smell's getting through, unless there's a problem down there. There's clearly down here, there's clearly, that's hard to see. There's damp sort of rising into that brickwork, sort of the middle of the screen, so from this cemented in mound here. It actually looks very sandy. I wonder if that's deliberate in case it's needed to be removed. Yeah, you can see actually. You can't see jack shit. It's very difficult to make this visible, but that appears to be loose, and when I'm pressing on that I can see water squidging out, so I'm going to assume that this is probably blocked. That feels warm as well, probably from the warm water. So I'm going to try and see if I can remove this little access panel and go from there, I guess. So I was struggling to undo these screws. There's two, one in that corner and one down here. So I had to give them a bit of a, just keep tapping them with tapping the screwdriver with a hammer just to try and break the seal. And as soon as I turned that screw, there was a smell, and water's actually sort of come up through the screw. I haven't even undone it fully. I just a quarter of a turn. So there's clearly some pressure down there from all this water. It may be that there's water from the sinks backed up into these pipes, and then now that's pushing up. So yeah, this is going to be a bit of a shit show, I think. They must have originally intended here for these boards to be all the way over, and then they probably had to cut that to get access for that, I'm assuming. I'm struggling to loosen these screws at the minute. Well, that one's loose, this one's not, and it's sort of chewed a little bit of the head, which is not good, because I don't want to do that, because I won't be able to get it out at all then. Looks like this is set in like a pot type thing, so I've obviously got to be careful with tapping it because I don't want to break anything. We'll see how this goes. So I've managed to loosen that. Basically what I've done is get the screwdriver, this fairly beefy one that's a good fit for that. You want a good fit on a slot head, so otherwise it will chew it up more easily. Fairly good fit. Could do with being slightly bigger, but I think that's the biggest one I've got to hand. So I just sort of, obviously you tap it in the hole, the slot, to try and get this in as deep as you can, so it's right to the bottom of the slot, so you've got more chance of it not chewing the slot out when you're trying to turn it. You can also use, I used a small screwdriver and just keep running that up and down as well, just to clean that out, because there'll be like cement and crap in there from looking at this. It's coated in the stuff. And then I also found that tapping this around the edge here, just lots and lots of gentle taps. You don't have to, you're not trying to smash a hole through it, you just, lots of gentle taps all the way around. And also there was a lot of this cement on the top here, so I've just sort of basically chiseled and scraped it off, and just lots of gentle taps really, and now it's actually loose, so I'll undo them and probably regret it. So even the lid was stuck. I think the cement around the edges here has caused it to stick more. I mean, it's probably going to have stuck a bit anyway over time, but so I've just sort of scraped all of what I can off around the edges and brushed everything away, try and get as little of this stuff down here as possible, and then just gone around and sort of tapped in this sort of groove all the way around, just gently, because you don't want to, obviously I don't want to crack this or break anything. And then you perhaps see that's moved now, that's freed that lid up, so hopefully I'll be able to lift that and, well, yeah. Let's see. Yeah, so I've just ran a small amount of water in the sink, just a tiny bit, and that's basically overflowed here, so clearly blocked. You can actually almost, it's probably not so clear on the camera, but there's probably an inch or so of clear water. Well, I say clear, it's probably not the right word, but, and then it's all just gunge and horrible stuff. Yeah, that's the typical block drain. It's black and it stinks like Satan's arse crack kind of situation. I think this is mostly fat. I think that's what it's down to. This is pretty grim. That's what's been coming out. What I've actually decided to try and do is use this Hoover pipe, which is slightly tapered. It's wider at this end than that end, and I'm just sort of pushing it down into this stuff because it is that thick that I can do this, and then pulling it out, and then just a bit of a shake and a tap in the bucket and it drops out, because obviously it's tapered. So I'm just going to try that for now. Obviously what I don't want to happen is for this to go into the main drain if I can avoid it. But oh, lovely, wonderful day. That's what I've dredged out so far. It's not what it looks like. It actually looks like clay, not the other stuff. It absolutely reeks. It's the black stuff that reeks, because I think that's it's like broken down vegetable matter, that kind of stuff. That's what stinks. It's not the fat stuff. But it was all up in here. I've had to get the glove out and get my hand in there, unfortunately, but I can feel there's obviously in this square thing there's a bit that goes this way to where these pipes are, and that was full, and there's still stuff there, but I can feel the ends of the pipes now from inside there. But obviously there's also a run going that way, which is going to be the drain that probably goes to, it might go to a manhole somewhere. I think there's a manhole for every 2 houses, so as I say, this is a semi, so I think next door's got the manholes. I haven't got any at all in my yard, and I don't think there's any under here, although who knows what's under here. So obviously what I don't want to happen is to flush a big load of crap that way, big blob of fat, and then it gets stuck and then block things further down. So I'm trying to get out as much as I can. So I'm going to try and get the wet and dry Hoover on the job. Just trying to figure out how this thing works. I've never used it like that. You've got your standard filter, hepatite filter, that screws on, and then it looks like you just take that off, and we get these bags. So that goes over there, and there's like a big elastic band to hold it in place, so it can draw the air, but that should stop any bits getting through. And then inside here, you probably can't see it, but Oh, it's not a ball. Sometimes it's a ball. This has got like a float. You might see that drop down. So when the water gets above a certain level, it closes off the hole to the motor, so you don't end up with bigger problems. So hopefully that'll work, and hopefully I'll be able to clean this up afterwards. It's not ideal, but I'd sooner do that than get some rods and ram it down and try and pull out as much this way as I can, I think. Well, if you want the smell to be worse, all you need to do is just shove a vacuum down there and suck all the stuff up. It makes it smell a lot worse. That's cleared that out. It was interesting to see that the stuff in there was actually feeding back towards the drain. I think, if I recall correctly, last time I've had to do sort of clear out a drain like this, I think there's like a U-bend in it. So I assume it clogged up to the U-bend. I don't know, I'd have to see if I can feel anything, but it depends how far back that goes up that way. There's obviously only so much you can do like this. We'll see how we go. I'm going to put a bit of water down and see what happens, see if we get it blocking again. So I'm just pouring hot water down at the minute from the sink in the kitchen. Seems to be topping up. Let's see how far it tops up. And I'm using the hot water, and I've put the immersion heater back on as well, because that will help. If there's any of this fat, it will help melt it and flush it away, and hopefully flush it right away. Yeah, that's no longer raising anymore, so that's cleared the blockage by the looks of it. There's some stuff keep popping up. You can see some thick horrible stuff floating around in there. I may let that sit for a bit and then suck that back out. So I've stopped the water and suck out what's been put in there. Well, that certainly seems to be clear, and it's flushed through quite nicely. Would have flushed through a lot more, but the hot tap just decided it wasn't going to work anymore. And of course the moment I really needed the hot water was the moment that the stopcock in the header tank decided to jam, or the valve on the ball cock. So the immersion heater tank's not got any water in it now, so that's great. Hopefully the thermal cutouts worked on the heating element, otherwise that's going to be the next job to fix. It's pretty typical. Well, it's starting to get dark outside now anyway, so I need to try and have a clean up and tidy up and at least get this hole covered back over and get the cover back on the drain itself. That actually needs cleaning because all the inside of it's all manky and horrible from obviously everything rising up. Still not quite sure why the smell would come under the sink, which is a bit strange, whether it's just been blown through. It's the only thing I can really think. It probably just got blown through. There's quite a draft under here, which is good because it's let's grab the torch. Yeah, it's quite wet under here because I've also poured some boiling water on round here, and I've tried to clean this up a bit as well, so it's quite wet, but it'll dry out because there's a good airflow. And now this isn't going to be filling up, and then the wet wicking out into the cement and everything around it. It should all dry out properly. I'm unsure about these two pipes. They're definitely not used by anything in the bathroom, I've confirmed that. And I think, well, my thinking is this was probably an old pipe to a sink, and that one was probably for the bath, because the bath would have been against this wall here, against what would have been the window. Yeah, so I'm going to try and do that. I've obviously got to separate out all that fat from that water, so I've got one of these like fairly coarse garden sieve things. I'm just going to lay, I've cut half of an old t-shirt up, so I'm going to lay that in there, and then I'll sort of pour it through that into a bucket underneath to collect the water, which I'll then have to get rid of somewhere, and then all the fat and crap will get collected in there, and then I can just quadruple bag that and chuck it in the bin and get rid of it. That's really all I can do. I'm going to have to do the same with the Hoover, pour it all out and do that, get rid of the fat and muck that way. Well, everything's all back together now. That lid's back on, all screwed on and everything. I'll obviously cover this up tonight so we don't get any little visitors coming through if they still come through this way. I think all the wet will dry up. As I say, there's plenty of airflow down here. So yeah, another fun day. So it's the next day now, and I've decided to try and tidy this up at least a little bit better than it was. This pipe here I've pulled out, and that just went into a cavity wall. You probably can't see in there, but at the back there is actually some plasterboard at the back of the hole, which is actually the bathroom. Obviously the backing of the tiles in the bathroom wall. So I've took that one out. I've stuffed a piece of expanding foam in here. It was actually a piece that was already formed. I didn't put expanding foam in the drain because that would definitely block it. And I'm going to just cap that off with a bit of cement, just block the hole up. This does definitely all need ripping out properly, but it's not really the time of year at the minute. It's drying out as well. I can definitely see a difference in sort of the brickwork, and down here there's quite a hole down there, like a void all the way down. I'm wondering if the water was actually getting down here. It's very difficult to see. I'm not sure if there's actually a hole through the brickwork right down there. It's quite a way down, probably a foot down. And just the back around this drain, it just doesn't really seem, it just seems to be a bit of a void around it. So I think the water's basically overflowed, and it's just been filling that hole up, and it probably has made its way under the floor in the bathroom. And it's obviously just soil underneath, but it's still not ideal. I don't know if it's visible, but that's definitely drying out now. The brickwork's drying out. So I was trying to get this nail out, and there's not really the room under it to swing the hammer, and the nail keeps bending. A really useful trick to get a nail out is to use a clamp, or you can also put nails in if they're short as well. It's quite tricky, but you use a clamp, and then as you tighten that up, it will hopefully force the nail back through the hole if it doesn't bend. So that's one way of getting a nail out, because this was below the wood level. Obviously now I can just get something around that and pull it out, but it was flush with the wood. So yeah, so I'm going to try and make a little template, probably out of card or something for this, cut the wood, see if it'll fit, and then get some battens on and cement that up, and cement this hole up as well, just for the time being, and then hopefully in the summer do something better with it. So I've got a batten on here now, a couple of screws. I've glued that as well, and I've glued both of them. That's just a lump of wood. It's just screwed under there just to offer a bit of support. It's not ideal, but it's better than nothing. And no one will be standing here. It's just pushing some cupboards back. I've cemented up the hole. It's not the best of jobs, but it'll do. I've decided to cement that as well for now. All of this is going to need altering anyway, so it's just to seal it up until the summer really, or whenever I get a chance to deal with it. I've re-cemented over here a bit as well because it was really deteriorating a lot, and there's some bits I think down here where it was all sort of cracked and that, so I've sort of bolstered that up with some cement because I was far too much I made for the job, and the hole's blocked. I just made a cardboard cutout to get the size of that right to fit there, and now we've got this OSB board panel. So I've got something a little bit more substantial and flat. I've also blocked up some of the gaps with this sort of foam. It's like a high density foam packaging material. It's quite good, and you just cut strips off and it squashes in nicely. That should hopefully help a little bit with drafts and, well, mice is the other thing, unless they chew through it. But so I think that's going to be about it. I've drawn some marks where I can put some screws, so I'll just drill some holes in this and then just put a few screws in, not too many. It's been a nightmare of a job, not because of the job itself, but everything's in such a mess in here, and all the tools are in here, but I've had to shove everything over so I can't get at the tools, and I can't find the tools anyway because everything's a bit chaotic. So it's been a nightmare, but the job's been easy. It's everything else that's the problem. Well, that's all done now. I've got 4 screws in, that'll do. I just glued and pinned a little block on the end of that there just so I've got something to screw this down to, because there was not much to screw into there. And that's it. Tidy up time now. Hopefully can get some dinner then.